If you take Quacks of Quinlanburg, Marvel Legendary, mush them together with a Robert Kirkman IP, you might just get Invincible, the hero building game. And that's what we're going to be talking about today on today's episode of Solo Mode Check. Hello everybody and welcome to the Boardgaymergirl channel. If you're new here, my name is Natalie and I like to talk about all things board games, but from a primarily solo perspective. Today we are looking at Invincible, the hero building game. And this is a game that I saw on my feeds a little bit on Instagram, Facebook, and a little bit around YouTube. And I was intrigued by not only the theme, because I do like Invincible, the animated series, which now I think they just released the 5th season, but also just the mechanics in the game, because deck builders and bag builders are things that I tend to like, and it's a cooperative game similar to a Marvel Legendary or Marvel Champions game where it's you against some baddie or multiple baddies. And yes, this box is for 1 to 4 players. It plays within 45 to 90 minutes, and the game comes with a campaign mode, or you can do one-shots of 7 different scenarios. These 7 different scenarios also take on the episodes of season 1 of the animated series. So again, you get to play through the TV show, which is really neat. But you'll also get to take on the different hero characters that you may know and love, including Adam Eve, Invincible himself, Robot, and Splode. Before I get into talking about more of my review, I think I'll get into a little bit about how the game plays and understand that this is kind of a general overview, and I'll get a bit more into the solo specifics a little later. If you want to skip this part of this video, you can always check out the chapters stamps below and skip ahead. But don't you want to hear my lovely voice a little bit longer? For this game, you'll usually set up and you'll take one of different scenarios. So there's this one that's suggested as your introduction scenario, but there's 7 different ones that kind of have their own setup instructions as well as their own win objectives. So it's not always just beat all the baddies before the end of the game. You'll take those setup instructions, but you'll always have the A, B, and C board set up in that order, and you'll have different civilian tokens that you'll be placing on these boards in different areas. There's a danger zone, a safety zone, and if you happen to not save all of the civilians in one of these 3 boards, they end up on the kill board. So whoopsie. But what you're trying to do is your heroes will jump around from these 3 different areas, the A, B, C board, where different villains will populate, minions will populate. You'll try to protect different civilians or rescue them to keep them in safety zone. And you'll also be able to thwart the different villains or different kind of schemes or objectives depending on your scenario. Over the rounds, you'll also be building up your character, as you'll start with a deck of cards that you can pay to play out and upgrade your character as the game goes on. And this is the main way that you'll be upgrading your character. So it is deck building and it's also bag building, because each character comes with their own little baggie, and their baggie consists of 3 of every color cube, which includes yellow, blue, red, and purple, which all coincide with different action spots on your boards and cards that you can activate. And there are also 6 different black cubes in every bag. These black cubes are good and bad. I mean, with great responsibility. No, with great power comes great responsibility. Okay, whatever. Anyways, the black cubes are wild cubes, so they can act as any color, but if you ever pull 5 cubes on any one round for one of your heroes, that hero kind of crashes out and they no longer get to pull anything from the bags, but at the end of the round, they do have to roll a damage-like die and take damage. Each character has a health point of 10, and whenever you hit that 10 threshold, you'll follow a set of instructions, but it is one of the ways that you can lose this game. So similar to things like Pandemic, there's one way to win it, but there's a whole lot of ways that you can lose it. In each scenario, the win condition is different, but if at any time 3 KOs have happened amongst heroes set in the game, then you've lost the game. If all civilians in one of the 3 boards are completely gone, then you've lost the game. Or if at any point there are 15 civilians across any of the 3 boards that have been killed, you've lost the game. So there's a lot of fun goodness going on with all of this, and now I'll get into more of my solo review. I'll talk about the specific changes for solo, and that includes that unfortunately there is no true solo mode. There is a variant that I think some people have used, but I don't believe it's the official solo mode from the box. The only solo official mode that this game is meant to be played as is a 2-handed mode. So you'll take 2 different characters, 2 different boards, 2 different bags, but you will be sharing a hand size. So for a solo game where you're doing double-handed duty, you'll actually share a hand size of 7. And depending on if you're doing an introduction game or you're going further on in the campaign or doing a full game of a one-shot from one of the different scenarios, you'll have a different set of starting cards. So there's regular superpower cards that you'll have in your hand, or you'll have superpowers. I forget what they're called, but you can also deal up to those, but I think you can only have up to 2 drawn every time you're able to draw cards from these piles. So in your hand, you'll be sharing 7 cards. These are all superpowers that follow the same different colors of purple, blue, yellow, and orange. And you'll be paying with different resources that you'll accrue during a round where you pull cubes to pay for these cards so that you can place them down and utilize them in future rounds. How you activate cards is by pulling little cubes from this little bag. And I do want to note that I really appreciate that they chose cubes over little cardboard chits. So I know that the cubes just being different colored cubes isn't as exciting. This game is from Direwolf, who also did Clank, and they also use cubes if you're familiar with that. And just hearing it, you already hear the little click clank of the cubes dancing around. But for different games where you're using bag building as one of the mechanics, you have, or the retail editions, because I know a lot of these games can get deluxeified, and I've done them too. And that's games like Arkham Horror, the card game, where you're taking those little cardboard circle pieces out of the bag, or Orleans, or even Quacks of Quinlanburg, before they had the deluxeified copies that you can buy at retail. And it's just not as fun or just tactile goodness when you gotta reach down in a bag and it's just these thin cardboard things. So that is a plus for me for a bag builder like this. And the cubes do work really well, actually. So other than that, the other thing that I wanted to point out is that while playing double-handed, you're also balancing these 2 bags. So how I have played it is I'll go and separate my bags on either side of the table, because you're trying, one, to not mix up the bags, and therefore your cubes that you'll be getting over different rounds to build up your bag with the wrong character. And you'll also be trying to make sure that, okay, I'm pulling cubes from the blue bag for Invincible, and then I'm pulling cubes from the pink bag for Adam Eve. And I'll usually do Invincible, then Adam Eve, and then place those, and then see if I'm going to take a chance and push my luck and go through each of those hero bags one more time. But I will say it just builds a little anxiety in me because the person I am so gonna mix it up and accidentally put one cube in one of the wrong bags or something. And that's just something where it gets a little bit fiddly, but I will say that I still enjoyed the way that the game was. And again, I do also appreciate the cubes over the little cardboard tokens that they could have had. Yeah, that's the biggest thing that I think is up to people to decide if this is a solo mode for them, because a lot of people have a strong stance on playing double-handed. For some games it works, for some games it doesn't. It's a personal choice. Like for instance, I would only play Arkham Horror the LCG double-handed because of the way that the mechanics work. For this one, I can see how a true solo variant might be out there, but I definitely would prefer to play double-handed for this one. The other point that I do want to bring up is that as you're building up your character over time, you're obviously accruing more cards, making more choices as to what your character is going to do. But as you build up your card deck, you also have a chance to get different cubes over the span of the game as you discard cards. So let's say I discard a yellow card at the end of a round. I can take a yellow cube from the supply to place in my bag. So as you're going through the game, it is less and less likely that you might pull a wild black token cube thing. And as I mentioned before, the black cubes are wild, so they can be used for any of the different colors, which is fantastic. But at the same time, if you ever pull 5 of them during one round, it's a boo-boo on you. And you have to roll the damage die, or I keep wanting to call it the danger die. As you get more and more different colorful cubes, it feels like the risk is mitigated as you're getting further into the game, which usually has a difficulty ramp up, and instead it feels like it gets a little easier. I will say that this happened especially in the introduction scenario, and the second scenario was a little bit more challenging, but as you go on, it gets more and more challenging as also the scenarios' win conditions are different. So it's just keeping that in mind, but as you play the game more, it's all about push your luck and whether you're pulling those cubes or not, right? That's a maybe area for me. I don't know how I would improve upon it if it's more easy or too difficult. I will say that they do have 2 sets of cards in the box itself, where if you find a scenario too difficult or too easy, there are different helper cards or challenge cards that you can add to any game. I haven't used those yet, but obviously that might change some of my opinions on the difficulty levels. Now, one of the final things that I want to go over, and it's just a little thing, but I do appreciate that there is thwarting in this game. If you're familiar with Marvel Champions, you have basically a villain where you can like punch them, or there's usually a scenario where you're trying to thwart your way, or else you have that happen as a consequence. And a lot of these scenarios, sometimes they'll be you have to kill all these villains, or you have to thwart different schemes that are coming up. And I really like the thwarting mechanic, as it's also part of the entire gameplay, where at the end of a round, if you have to activate a villain, but you've thwarted them by using 2 different thwart actions, then you skip their like punchy step or badness step, and you just get rid of the thwart and you get to continue on. So it's also a different strategic way to go about going through each campaign or one-shot scenario, and I really like that. I like that in Marvel Champions as an alternative route of trying to figure out how you're going to get through a game, and I like that they have that also for Invincible, the hero building game. Now, I will say, as I'm comparing it a lot with Marvel Champions, part of that is because of the way that it's set up, but I do think that at least so far, Marvel Champions obviously has so much content for that game, and it feels like it's sometimes a bit deeper or strategically just a little more effort, but that's from building up over years and years. And this is a one box of season 1 with 7 scenarios, and hopefully they come out with more content. I'm not sure if there is actually more content out there already. There's a lot that they can do with this game, and this is only the beginning. So in a sense, if you compare this with just the Marvel Champions base game, that is a better comparison as to the level of depth and customization and deck building that you're going to go through. I will also say this is pretty much get up and go. You have everything you need in this box itself. For something like Marvel Champions, there's deck constructing, which can take some time, but both I'd say probably set up pretty similarly when it comes to time as a comparison, other than the deck construction that you have in that LCG. And again, with this one, you don't just get cards, you get the click-clack little cubes from the little baggies. So with that said, my conclusion on this game, on whether it is worth it for solo, I find it dependent, because it depends on your ability to approve or disapprove of two-handed solo. For me personally, I think that this is worth it if I only ever played the game solo, even while having to try to navigate 2 different characters and make sure that I don't mix up cubes from 2 different bags. And that's about it for this video. If you like Invincible, who's your favorite character? Let me know in the comments below. Have you played Invincible? Do you have any thoughts on how this game is? Or have I made not as good comparisons and you have a better one? Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I hope you have a fabulous day. I am off to Edmonton tomorrow to be with friends. Hopefully we are still friends at the end of the trip in Edmonton for GameCon. Otherwise, yes, okay, goodbye, goodbye!